There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know we don't know.
Excuse me, but is this an unknown unknown?
I'm not going to say which it is.
Shadow on the wall. Yeah, I see. So you're doing a small piece here, and then right here, kind of like right here. Okay. So you get the white wall to cast against. Okay. And then you get to choose pretty much any place you want to go, either this corner or like this area. Okay. But we want it to interact. I know because yours is kind of, you don't have like a specific one. Yeah. The artists in the show are emerging artists, new and emerging artists, so unknown, and then also known artists, so established artists. So it's kind of cool that we get a whole group of new and established artists and people in the show.
Wow. I'm learning a lot just by taking it apart. I once had an apartment in Elliott Park, and we realized that there was layers and layers and layers of wallpaper on the walls, and so we started scraping and ripping and picking. We found about 12 layers of wallpaper that went all the way back to 1880. And by the time we got to the bottom layers, we were able to rip off all the successive layers successfully enough to get a big area of the original 1880s wallpaper that was on this wall. And that sort of inspired me to start ripping this stuff up.
How far down do you want it to hang from the ceiling?
I was just planning on testing that out, but probably at least 5 feet. It's going to be hanging over here, and then the light will come from this side and then cast a shadow onto the wall.
I like the end of the year show. All the work of basement and everything else kind of in the past. Like you just kind of relax a little bit. It's still a big show, but not quite as much building, which is good.
Well, they're going to have probably a piece of wood is going to put the barrier where the sand is. I'm going to put sand down first. But I don't know what you should...
We'll have to run the dimensions.
Okay, that's why you're going to have to talk to me. I would assume I'm going to go grab a bunch of drop cloths and tape them down, but I don't want the drop cloth to show it all. But the problem is, I don't know if you want the sand to come all the way up to the wall.
It's two parts. There's a ball that will sit here underneath this piece, and then there's this one. I had a class, and I think the challenge was we had a project to do, and the challenge was to use many objects to cover one object. And I thought, well, the best choice is rubber bands. Easy. I'll just wrap a box in rubber bands, and it worked. So I've been tinkering with that idea ever since. This one is probably the biggest one I've done. I'm trying to work with simple shapes and move my way onto more complex shapes.
10 by 10. And it started off like a couple different groupings, like this one in the middle here with the blue. And then I kind of added from that, thinking expanding it, and just having fun with it, just kind of like tiles.
KnownUnKnowns is going to be these two overhead projectors I'm going to have set up sort of facing each other with one screen in the middle. People will be invited to come up and draw on the projectors at the same time, and so you'll have one sort of combined image with the two drawings from each projector, kind of playing around with the art product being dependent on the audience.
This would be my newest thing, kind of the modular pieces. They're patinaed sheet steel, and some have been pounded, and everything has been kind of one panel or one piece or two or three. But I wanted to see, you know, not just the detail in one piece, but you know how subtleties in one piece kind of relate to another, and kind of like a, you know, woven fashion. So it's not just like one can carry the whole thing. They all have to interplay together to make a whole. So I'm just kind of playing with things and seeing how I like it. And then it's going to look completely different on the wall, so I might be wasting my time.
Artists submitted, a lot of them didn't have their pieces finished. You know, our submission deadline was 2 months ago. So with that being said, a lot of people, you know, submitted proposals, but their pieces weren't created or finished yet. And so when we come in to install, a lot of pieces we haven't seen, and a lot of pieces have changed. Yeah. So that was kind of the thing. It's like, how do you map out a show? And technically, half the pieces you don't even know what they look like. So
right, there have been a ton of changes. A lot of the submissions were pretty conceptual, yep. Just like an idea, and you know, from there you kind of ask, well, how much space are you going to need? How is this going to
yep.
work?
These are 3 characters out of the Cyrillic alphabet. I just learned last night that it says f, g. The middle one doesn't make a sound. It's something that you would put at the end of a word to signify that it's the end of the word. I was doing the Hebrew alphabet before I started working with the Cyrillic characters, and I'm attracted to Cyrillic specifically because it's got this kind of agitprop, pro-Soviet subtext, as it were, to it, but also because I don't understand it at all. So to me, it's sort of like a mystical, alien language.
was going to end up looking like. And I wasn't sure how I was going to hang it, but I knew I wanted it. I wanted it hung. I wanted people to be able to see it from both sides, because it's just, you know, if you can see that the bands are all the way around, you can get a sense of what it is, and you actually get a feel for what's going on here and the tension in the bands around the object. That's huge. I'd love it if people actually did just walk up to it and touch it. That'd be great. The ball was very challenging, very hard to find out, you know, where's the top, where's the bottom, you know, where do I start wrapping rubber bands around this ball? Where's it going to go? You know, how do I measure the ball and make sure that everything is symmetrical and perfect? With a flat object like this, it's easy. I know where to start. I know where I'm going to end up. I know roughly how many rubber bands it's going to take. With the ball, it's been problems ever since the beginning, but that's great. I like learning.
I started thinking about black lace and how it was used both to represent the erotic and mourning for women. And so I wanted to do something using black lace against portraits of women. And the more I thought about it, kind of obscuring the image with patterning from lace, I started thinking that I wanted to do it as white, so it would kind of represent an absence and take something away from the painting. So that's how I came to just doing these blown-up lace patterns on the women's portraits. I also kind of wanted to represent it as a veil that both the subject and the viewer would be looking through. So something that kind of, again, obscured the way that you viewed the subject, but was also kind of ambiguously veiling them or veiling you.
I have 6 large figurative paintings in the show, and there's 10 in the series total. And what's really cool about having them displayed in this show is that they're going to be displayed vertically, so it's a grouping of paintings, so they have more of an impact when you're looking at them. And it's really dealing with kind of the fragility of human relationships. So that kind of works its way into, you know, known unknowns. What do you know about a person? What do you know about your relationship or how you interact with that person, and what you don't know. I painted through till like 4 a.m., then Sunday, and then Monday, and I had this volunteer. Wow.
I'm going to go upstairs and see about sticking a light down there. Yeah, that's the wall. Yeah, I can stick a light right down there. The wall is about like a foot away from the actual elevator. Ideally, I would like the elevator itself on the inside lit very lightly. But if I stick a light down here, that should happen. Yeah. It doesn't have to be on all the time, I guess. Or I can put it on a timer, I suppose. Unless there's enough ambient light just coming from this light. I just want it to look sort of like you don't know what it is in there, you know? When you look in there, like, what am I looking at?
A lot of my work deals with geometric abstraction and geometry being like an intrinsic component of nature. And so I see these two pieces as almost opposites to one another, where this is using natural form to create geometric structure, whereas this is almost the intrinsic geometry within the wood going alongside the grain. And I almost see these lines as energy forces radiating out of the grain. And so I'm not inserting geometry into the natural form, I'm almost revealing it. And so that's how I see this piece as well.
And also the scope, I guess this is kind of
The shadow is almost like a figurative representation of the sculpture itself, where I see it almost coming alive in a certain sense when it's projected onto a flat surface. So from 3D it goes to 2D.
Myself are sharing Holly's old studio over yonder. I call this Occupy Government Center with color blocks. And this one I call Mass Migration. I don't know if that's going to stick or not, but that's kind of the name that I like so far. And then the third one I have is over here. And I call this Color World. So it's just, I have like a couple of weird buildings. I have one that looks very soap factory-esque.
We're going to be setting up a area of Mars, the surface of Mars, and we're going to have something that looks a lot like a Mars lander crawling around in it, and we're going to project the images onto a video screen.
I got my degrees in sculpture, but that's kind of an archaic term for what I do. The way my mom puts it is I'm a conceptual installation artist, which is pretty good. It means she's paying attention. This is basically a transplant from an installation I did about a year ago, so it's one of like 5 pieces. And there were 2 chandeliers that incorporated the 40-ounce bottles like this. And the whole concept of it was kind of inspired by the kids in Paris that go down into the catacombs, and they've found like DIY unlicensed nightclubs and bars, and they're really, you know, drinking among the dead and having celebration below ground. And I'm really interested in kind of like this concept of underground youth cultures or rebellious cultures, and kind of the ideas of wasting away your life for the sake of beauty. But that might be over-romanticizing it. It could just be all about angst, right?
At the sculpture from the side view over here, and then I started drawing sketches, and then it started growing and growing more and more, and then I realized that I wanted to focus more on the 2 sides of it as well, and kind of make it be almost a topographical form in a certain sense, and have this juxtaposition of like organic shape with stark geometry almost melting into each other. And so we're man's world of buildings and structured form and structured representation melts into nature's more organic, intrinsic form.
I think overall everything worked really, really well, and it's a really strong show, and it's been really cool for us because everything's just been developing day by day. Yeah, that's cool.
Kiss necks, and I like to kiss backs, and I like to kiss cheeks.
A lot of the art, you see it for the first time. It's like a Christmas present. It's like, oh my gosh.